Hey, pastors and leaders. I don't know if you're sensing this, but what I have seen over these past few years is that there's a lot of hurting, broken, and desperate people walking into our churches, and they're walking out of our churches in the same condition. They're not encountering the life-giving presence of God. And that led us several years ago to just begin to hone in on this idea of presence driven. In fact, when I began to take over as lead pastor of this church, God specifically spoke to me and said, I want you to build a presence driven, life giving, spirit empowered church. And I was like, great. What does that mean? I had to start digging in and I had to seek the heart of God, and God began to reveal to me and to our staff, because God was working in our staff too, of what a presence-driven church looks like. And really what a presence-driven church looks like is a church that is building from the foundation of prayer. Prayer and intimacy, hearing the voice of God. I mean, how many times do we run into a Sunday morning and we go to church and we say, yeah, that was a good service. That's not good enough for us anymore. Like, we don't want just a good church service. We don't want a great church service. We want to gather as a community of believers and encounter the presence of God. Without the presence of God, life transformation doesn't take place. So at this conference, at the Presence Driven Prayer Summit, we want to gather together pastors and leaders and staff and spouses, and we just want to seek and pursue the heart of God. You're going to listen to some incredible speakers, but there's also going to be times of prayer together. There's going to be times of just soaking, getting in tune with God's voice, learning to hear his voice. And I promise, if you guys will make this a priority and come be a part of this, I promise that God will speak to you. You will hear from the Lord. One of the greatest testimonies that I hear about from the Woods Church, from visitors, from other people coming to the church, whether it's at a conference or whatever. One of the greatest testimonies, and one of the most frequent testimonies that I hear, is that when people drive in the driveway of the church, they begin to weep because they feel the presence of God. Or when people walk through the doors of the church, they begin to cry and they begin to weep, and they didn't even know why. I mean, there's people coming in here that aren't believers at all, and they just begin to weep and cry when they walk through the doors. It's because of the presence of God. And that doesn't happen overnight. That's you and your team, like hitting your faces, like pressing into God day after day and week after week. And man, but I promise you, there's no better way that you can spend your time than in prayer. That's how we have to build our churches today. We have to build them from the foundation of prayer. And I know that God's going to reveal to you and show you exactly how you need to do that. So come to the Presence Driven Prayer Summit. I hope you can. You will be blessed. We'll see you there.